Hey everybody, it's Eric. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free, and I absolutely love that about Anchor. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer, and Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. In other words, you can start making money as soon as possible. It's everything that you need to make a podcast all in one place. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, remember to download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started.
Or do your white boy dance?
Did I ever tell you the time that Mom tried to teach me how to dance for the prom?
Oh, gosh.
No.
It's not a story. It's not even a story. It's not even a thing.
Oh, clearly by how much you're denying, it is a thing.
Well, welcome to the show, You, Me, and Your Mom. A show where three people sit down to talk about whatever they want to talk about. I'm your host, Eric, and we're joined today by our other two hosts, my best friend, Brandon.
You tease.
And my mom. Mom.
Hello.
Her name is Andy. How are you guys?
I'm doing good.
Doing well. Thank you. How are you?
Doing good. Doing good. I learned how to dance at the prom, so... Yeah, I guess we never told you the story, Brandon. And for those that are listening, Mom tried to teach me how to dance at the prom. It did not go well. Mom did
like at the prom or for the prom?
No, before the prom, I guess.
Okay.
So, so I was called, out of the blue. My best friend's cousin called and said, "Hey, listen, I need someone to go to the prom." She and I had never met. And what happened was her boyfriend broke up with her and then decided not to go to the prom the week of the prom, right? Yeah. So they just needed someone nice to go with her because she was very active in school. And so being homeschooled, we never talked about the prom. This never came up or anything like that. And what was really funny about it was they got the tuxedo. I said, sure, I'll go with a complete stranger. I don't care. That's just kind of who I am. I didn't care. I felt bad. You don't want to feel bad, but yeah, I'll go with her.
Totally
she doesn't have a date. Yeah, she's on the committee. Let's do it. So what happened was, Brandon, come on. We've been recording for weeks now.
Sorry, I thought my phone was on mute.
So anyway, we got the tux, and it was the day before the prom. And I came in from working outside, and I'm covered in sweat, and I'm covered in manure because we lived on a farm. And I come in, and Mom, it was like a sitcom. Mom was standing in front of the stereo, and she just reached over with one finger and turned on the music and just stared at me the whole time, like just dramatic. Tink. And the music starts playing. She's like, "You're going to learn how to dance." And then she starts into her two-step. And the thing is, I don't know where Mom learned how to dance. I don't think anybody ever taught her. I'll be honest. And she went right into her white man 2 dance. It was amazing. And she's like, start right here, you right here, and you just go side to side. And the thing is, she just assumed I didn't know how to dance. She had never seen me how to dance. She's never seen me try or anything like that. She just automatically assumed, Mom, I've always wanted to know what exactly was going through your mind when you decided to do this.
Well, I wanted you to be able to dance at the prom and not feel like you couldn't dance, because I didn't want you to be one of those boys that stood over there and the girl was going, I wish my guy would dance, and you wouldn't dance because you didn't know how to dance. So I was going to make sure that you were the kind of guy that got on the dance floor and danced. I was just trying to be a good mom, but here it is. All these years later, I'm still here about how awful I was to teach you.
I looked at her and and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I just looked at her and just walked past her.
Yeah.
And just left her hanging.
It's okay.
Like maybe we can just pretend this never happened.
Yeah, let's just act like this never happened.
Well, I keep trying to pretend it never happened, but apparently he has not.
So fast forward after the prom night, we got a call the next day. Can you want to tell them? Because I just want to dig in the knife a little bit more. What is it?
No, you go right ahead.
Oh, no.
I don't even remember the call.
Oh, sure. I was apparently a really big hit at the prom.
Right.
Apparently he was the life of the party, and was like, yeah. So he lives this double life. Even then, I still think he's a CIA operative.
He knew
But
how to do
he
more
lived
than
a
just
double
that
life.
little sway.
Well, apparently, because he was homeschooled. I'm not sure where he learned all that because he homeschooled and we lived on a farm. But
Take
I
it till
guess
you
he was
make it, man.
maybe he was dancing with the chickens. I don't know.
Well, maybe. You never know. I did a Napoleon Dynamite thing. You guys ever watch that movie where
Oh,
he's hiding in his room
oh,
learning how to dance?
gosh, we watched that at the prison like every Saturday for a year. It felt
I
like.
saw that movie probably like 2 years at least, if not more, after it came out. So by the time I watched it, I could quote more than half of it, which is a good thing. Because otherwise, I'm not sure I would have like gotten it.
Yeah.
And enjoyed it.
I watched it 1,000 times. It's amazing. But we're not here for Napoleon Dynamite. We're actually here because we watched a little thing called Highlander 2.
And we're worse off for it.
So as we get into it, I'm kind of going, how do I want to start talking about the dumpster fire known as this movie? I know, I guess for those that are listening, if you didn't join us for the live streaming, you'll catch the bonus episode. When we drop this episode, the other episode will be available. And that episode, we are just live streaming our complete reaction to it. And the thing is, for those that are joining us for the very first time, the whole crutch of what's funny about this situation is Mom and I grew up with these. I grew up with these movies. Mom showed me these movies.
Well, I kind of grew up with him, so
yeah, like
there you go.
Yeah.
Mom was still using the turn pictures, but however, Brandon, our best friend here, he didn't grow up with these action movies. He's not seen almost all the really big action movies of the 80s and 90s, and so we've been slowly here and there been working through movies that we feel like he should watch. And one of them has been Highlander, and it was such much fun. We decided to do Highlander 2. We had a lot of responses from our listeners saying, "Oh, he must watch Highlander 2." For those that are listening, you are evil. You are so evil. We watched this movie, and it had been years since we had seen it, and Brandon had never seen it. And I realized that our listeners are psychopaths. This movie...
You're all sick, twisted individuals.
You are. It is incredibly terrible. So I guess today we're coming back. It's been 2 days since we watched it together. And we're going to kind of break down our initial thoughts and try to pull out what we feel about this movie, and more specifically what Brandon feels about this movie, because it was the first time he ever watched it. But before I do, there's a couple things that are fun trivia about the movie that I think everyone should know. First of all, the director had a completely different plot line or plot planned out, and the producers were so involved and messed with him so much that we got the glorious garbage fire that we had. So apparently when it first premiered, he was so upset that the first 15 minutes of the movie premiere, he got up and walked out of his own premiere. That I just want to let that sink in for just a minute. He walked out of his own movie. Isn't that incredible? Christopher Lambert, who plays Highlander, did not want to do this movie, did his absolute best to get out of this movie, did not care for it. Yet he was contractually obliged to do it. So for his performances. It's not great to begin with. It's on another level in this particular movie. Another thing was when Michael Ironsides, who plays the villain, and Christopher Lambert were fighting, apparently they used real broadswords for some strange reason instead of movie props.
Oh, Christopher Lambert refused to use a fake sword.
Oh, is that what happened? See,
I did a little research myself, yeah.
Oh, okay, so you might know more about it than I do. But I find this interesting. Apparently, Michael Ironsides actually cut off a bit of Christopher Lambert's finger during...
Yeah, Christopher Lambert cut his finger to the bone, and Michael Ironside dislocated his jaw in the dome fight. After these accidents, Lambert agreed to use a plastic sword.
Oh, good. So, long story short, this movie was wrought with disaster to begin with. So, take a deep breath, and here we go. I guess, Brandon, we'll start from the very beginning. Thumbs up, thumbs down. What's your first impression?
Is it possible to just cut off the thumbs and run crying? There was no redeeming value. Like I said, I looked up a few things too, And Michael Ironside was quoted by, like, none of us wanted to be there. Like me, Sean, Chris, just nobody. There were some choices made in this movie that are never explained, never hinted at an explanation. When something resembling an explanation rears its ugly head, the producers take it out back, throw a tarp over it, and beat it senseless with crowbars. Like, there is no rhyme, reason, or anything to this movie. I love watching bad movies. This was a slog. I was constant, and when you listen to the commentary track, you'll hear me just every so often just morosely counting out or calling out the time that's left. It was something. There were a lot of choices made. Michael Ironside being the biggest one. He said that this movie was the first time he played like a big evil mastermind type, and the script was crap. Apparently the first one was better, and then there was a lot of rewrites, and then it was still edited beyond whatever that was for the premiere that Eric mentioned, that the director walked out after the first 15 minutes. But he was Michael Ironside, who plays the villain General Katana, said that, I just played it as big and ridiculous as I possibly could. He's like, he specifically mentioned like the eye rolling and the foaming at the mouth. He's like, if I'm going to be in a piece of shit, well, I'm going to be the most memorable thing in this piece of crap.
Well,
sorry,
he was.
I meant to self-censor there.
Oh, that's okay. He certainly was. The thing about this movie, I guess we should start back from the beginning. First of all, it was edited beyond belief. In the original theater release, apparently the immortals that were established in Highlander, the first movie, in this one, they were randomly aliens. They decided to retcon it and make them aliens. And they came from a planet called Zeist.
Okay, so I missed
Yes.
that part, or is that just in like the Zeist cut that exists? Where they
Well,
specifically
yeah, and
say
that's
that?
what I was getting to. That's a good question. You
Okay.
watched the Earth. It's called the Renegade Edition, but you watched the Earth. The Zeiss was so despised, the Zeit Edition was so despised by the director and most everybody, that he did a cut where he removed any time they mentioned Zeiss. So when you see the flashbacks at the beginning of the movie with Christopher Lambert at the opera and he's remembering all these old memories,
Right.
the movie just kind of makes it look like it's just sometime in the past in some part of the world. But originally in the movie, it's actually on a completely different planet called Zeist, which is a random name. And that's actually where we got the immortals. They're not humans at all. And for some strange reason, these aliens were banishing their people as punishments to Earth for humans.
Okay. So did they like mind wipe them when they sent them to Earth too?
Well,
or was that just McLeod's? Did he just get like bonked on the head at some point?
Yeah, it implies that maybe his memory was wiped. And the thing is, like, Ramirez never mentioned it or anything like this. So it was so bizarre to do something like, everything that fans love in the first movie. They just went, you know what, none of that matters. We're going to do our own thing, which in some respects, I guess, is bold. But in another respect, it's the most random choice made. You didn't have to explain where the immortals came from. They don't need an origin story. They just are. They're just here on Earth, and we don't know exactly if they are human or a special kind of human.
Okay, so that cleared up some of my confusion, because at first I thought, so there was like the council of three, semi-identical, shaved head white guys in robes that Katana would go back and report to, and there would be, glass screens with 80s computer writing on it, 90s computer writing on it around. I wasn't sure what they were. I didn't know. Okay, so I thought there could only be one immortal, and that's McLeod, since, the quickening at the end of the first one. So are these guys like outside of time? Because they show this battle where they were fighting him. Like at one point says like, so is that the trick that, since they're not on Earth, he is the only one. That's why he's allowed to get old. And then when Katana shows up, he isn't anymore. So the game's back on. Like the Zeist thing fills in gaps. Like, if it were a Michigan road, there would still be potholes that would destroy your car, but it fills in a few of the gaps.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting. They didn't bother to do reshoots for that. Obviously, they couldn't get everybody back together to do the research for the reshoot for the recut. So they just cut everything out. And so the result of the Renegade Edition is there's these huge gaps of explanation as to why these things are happening. They're just happening. And that's what's so interesting about this movie. All of this is happening, and you have absolutely no explanation as to why.
Yeah, there's just another crazy evil man now that isn't, instead of having a sword that, you can take apart into a few pieces, he has an extendo sword with a dual hilt.
Yeah. And it's just, there were so many choices. So we could go through the movie a little bit. First of all, the obvious reference to Blade Runner. Like, for some strange reason, the writers and the director were like, you know what? I like Blade Runner. I'm going to ham fist Blade Runner world into Highlander. And so they fast forward into the future to 2024, and they recreated Blade Runner-esque sets. And I'm trying to figure out why they were trying to ham fist that so hard, because it makes no sense. There was no point to doing it. But as a result of making that choice, it just stumbled down into the black hole, right? Yeah. And it just got worse and worse.
There was just so many, like, hey, you know what the kids like? Batman. Yeah. Let's put in a thing where someone's flying around on a rig like Batman. Batman doesn't fly. Shut up and do it, because I pay you. You know what else the kids like? Hoverboards. That Back to the Future 2 made a ton of it. Let's put hoverboards in there too. Yep. When do we do it? In the Batman scene. Where else? Okay, sir. Meanwhile, you just see the person taking notes just having an aneurysm.
Now we've kind of broke down a little bit about, like, now we've got a rant out. I want to talk about some really funny things, though. What about the first two villains? They were amazing.
So are we talking about the crow porcupine assassins?
Yes. The porcupine assassins, I think, with the goggles in the middle of the night.
Yeah, that also had, like, occasionally they'd pull vampire faces.
Yeah, they would hiss randomly and stuff. It got to the point where we were teasing when we were watching this that they were kind of like D-list Captain Planet villains. They were just amazing. And you wonder what the costume design was when they come through this. So obviously the director gives final say on this, and they gave them porcupine quills on the back of their head. They put them all in these drab clothes, and they put goggles on them, told them to hiss and get out there and get it done. It results one of the craziest, most incomprehensible action scenes I think I've ever seen. It was absolutely weird and bizarre, and it was
just so bad. It was so bad and so long. Like, we used up all our good jokes in the first minute and a half, struggled for another 30 to 45 seconds to make up new ones, and there was still 2 more minutes at least of that scene. And it's just, okay, now the bad guy's flying to the left and McCloud's ducking out of the way. Now the bad guy's flying to the right and McCloud hoverboards out of the way. It's just, okay, turn the track around. All right, good. Now send him on the zip line that way. All right, good. Get him, catch him, turn him around. Now send him that way. All right, we're going to need about 37 more of these. Now let's raise it up a little bit so we're getting a downward from the left.
Yes.
Okay, now we're going to do an upward from the bottom right. It was maddeningly identical.
Oh, yeah. So Macon said that was indicative of the entire movie. There was at least 10 seconds where neither Eric nor Brandon had anything to say. They were speechless. And he said, that in and of itself shows how bad that movie was. That 10 seconds of glorious silence from those two boys.
Like, we were just staring dumbfounded and slack-jawed, like Cletus, the slack-jawed yokel from The Simpsons. Yeah. Like, just mouths agape at how not how little was happening, but how nothing was happening.
Yes.
It was just, they cut out so much apparently from the director's cut, and they could have kept going. Usually I would not take that position, but hack and slash, baby, just burn it all and leave it on the cutting room floor.
Yeah, Macon makes a good point. Brandon and I have this uncanny ability to joke through anything. And if you stun us to silence, and it's just because there's just so much dead time. Like, that's the thing about 80s sci-fi, right? There was a lot of 80s sci-fi that moved slowly. Like, I don't mind that. Like Never-Ending Story, Blade Runner, they were all, Never-Ending Story is more fantasy, but you kind of get the idea. Legend, they were all moving slowly, and that's just on par for back then, right? But this took it to a whole nother level where there was absolutely zero emotional investment, and it was just literally a whole bunch of shots of just staring at people as they stare back at you.
And you could see the wires.
Yeah.
Oh,
absolutely.
Just horrible, horrible wire work.
I have been to high school musicals of Peter Pan and seen less wires.
Yeah.
No kidding. It was egregious.
Oh my goodness. And it was just amazing.
If you have the special effects budget to make a CGI plane, that granted, you used that one several times.
Yes, you did. You leaned into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, if you have a special effects budget to do that, parcel off some of it to get rid of the flippin' wires. Like, the plane doesn't have to look that good. We know it's fake. Even in 1991, we knew it was fake. It's okay. Things will get better. Nothing in this movie will, but just in general in the industry.
It was an experience that literally drained like your energy out of you. By the time you get done with this movie, you're kind of just crawling to bed and wishing the day was over.
Yeah, when we were done recording, I think I said something along the lines of, I'm going upstairs and I'm going to put my head in my wife's lap and we're going to watch Big Brother episodes because my brain can't take anything else. Like, I just need to watch trashy reality TV show reruns from 2003 right now. Thank you.
Yeah. It's just, and it's more than just the bad action sequences. It's the inexplicable reasons why characters do what they do, right? So Ramirez, obviously, which is played by Sean Connery, died in the first movie. And they really wanted him to come back, right? And so at the end of the action sequence with the first two villains, right? And both of them died stupidly. All Highlander had to do was scream Ramirez's name, and Ramirez literally comes back from the dead. Now,
because they were gay married.
Yes, and that was the best part. One of the funniest jokes that Brandon makes while we were watching this was we were watching the ceremony where the Ramirez and McLeod are bound together, which, by the way, was super funny.
Oh, I was not joking. This is seriously coded as gay marriage. It's two men committing themselves to each other in a special ceremony. Like, Ramirez draws a circle on McLeod's forehead. It glows. They have to say special words and make a commitment to each other in front of whatever god they have and, nature. Like, that was some heavy coding.
Yes. And it was amazing because it was actually kind of sweet.
It was.
It was very
sweet.
sweet.
Sweet
and it gave me no chance. And it gave
Yeah.
me an endless opportunity of step off my man ho jokes. Like, so many side piece accusations in a Sean Connery voice that you could do.
Yeah. But the funny thing about it is, like, just the idea of Sean Connery being jealous of someone else. It's amazing. But yeah, they don't explain that ceremony. They just say we're now as one, and I guess that's being married. That's what that's kind of what Brandon and I took from it. And the thing is, he resurrects with no explanation, right? And he resurrects in Scotland, in Glencoe, Scotland. I guess that's where he died. That's where he got res.
Yeah, that's how I took it, because I'm assuming that's where McLeod's house was, where the Kurgan killed him.
Yeah, so for those that are listening, he gets resurrected, and it's right in the middle of a Shakespeare play outdoors for no reason. It just happens, and then Sean Connery tries to make jokes, and they're terrible jokes, and for some reason, it's the funniest thing the crowd has ever seen. And it's just this weird scene of Sean Connery coming back into the movies, and and then they just move on. And 90% of the time you see Sean Connery, he's just wandering around. Like, we spent 5 minutes watching him get dressed in a suit. It was just weird.
And the soundtrack choices in this movie were so odd, because we had the William Tell overture dun 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 dun. Okay, so we had this song for, well, let's back up to right before this scene starts. So Sean Connery, we said he's wandering around through the city for a few minutes, just awkwardly interacting with the people who are around him, walks into a tailor shop, and of course gets the pretty woman treatment from the guys in there, until he pulls off, the fat pearl earring in his ear. that's, you know, approximately the size of my thumb, and hands it to the man, you know, the tailor, who apparently is an expert in pearls.
Of course.
And, you know, just snaps his fingers, and the William Tell overture begins. And, you know, 2 assistant tailors come over and start measuring him and put him in a pretty spectacular suit. Not going to lie, but it's Sean Connery, and they're a bespoke suit makers.
It's hard not to be in a.
Yeah, when you're starting with high grade ingredients, it's not surprising when you get a 5-star meal out of it.
For real, you know, it's Sean Connery. I kind of enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, I think we all did.
Yeah.
So that scene, and it's not just, you know, we get like, you know, a 10 to 15 second montage. No, it is minutes long as we do different choices. And then he's sitting in a chair smoking a cigar, and then they're laying other swaths of fabric across him. And then, you know, they do the classic yes, no, you know, scene, you know, with looking for approval from the manager. And it's just, I didn't need it. Yeah. I appreciated it, but I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And then not long after that, we go from, you know, the William Tell Overture, one of the most recognizable pieces of classical music, even if you don't know what it's called, to General Katana, you know, going through this like beat 'em up and murder spree on a subway train to get to the front. And then we have this like heavy metal thrash music as he takes a subway train to speeds in excess of 400 miles per hour if we're supposed to, 500 miles per hour if we're supposed to believe the digital speedometer in the train, around corners and, you know, underground tunnels, which of course it is.
I want to question why would New York's subway system create trains that go 500 miles an hour to begin?
I don't think physics works that way, fellas. I don't think it's possible, even though speed trains in Japan don't go that fast.
I know. How about...
That's what we like to call cinemagic.
Yeah, I know. How about that scene with the baby flying to get splattered?
Oh, that was awful.
There was no... It was,
that
wasn't for it. It was just,
I didn't need that. Or the guy with like when it was going so fast that his face was made of clay and you saw his like cheeks melting and his eyes pushing to the side of his head. Like it was just so ridiculous. I know it was 1991, and I know that special effects makeup wasn't, you know, it's a lot more advanced now than it was then. But that was like preschool art class modeling clay on his face.
Yeah, that was like 15 years after Star Wars.
Yeah,
a regular person can, you know, buy better grade equipment than that from the Ben Nye website and do it themselves, or the catalog.
It was a good 10 years after Indiana Jones. I mean, there was.
We had Clash of the Titans in the 70s. Did a way better job at claymation than that.
Yeah, that was
10 years previous, or even more than that. Was Clash of Titans? Wasn't that 73? I want to say it was 73. I could be very wrong about that.
Yeah, I was a kid, so it was a while back.
Yeah, it was a minute, and you know. We have the scene where he's in the train and he's just killing things indiscriminately because it's fun to do, which, by the way, General Katana the movie makes no attempt to explain why he's evil. He's just evil. And what's hilarious to me is that it implies that McLeod and Ramirez are banished to Earth for hundreds of years, and General Katana just goes on his merry way. And then one day he's watching TV and they pop up, and he's like, "Curse them!" And he just decides to kill them. And there's absolutely no explanation why he's motivated to kill them. Just I saw them on TV, and that's the only motivation we get for the villain. And he
saw Highlander too.
Yeah, he did. He saw what was happening. He's like, I gotta stop this.
He knew what was going on around him.
You gotta stop this right now. And it's just so he got no motivations. The lady in the movie, the main romantic lead,
Virginia Madsen.
Yeah, Virginia Madsen. She, you know, Brandon makes a good point where we were watching. He's like, she's fine without Christopher Lambert. The moment you throw her in the room with Christopher Lambert, they both just shut down, and it's just a grudge to watch them. And I think they
become tropes. They cease to be characters and just become, not even Deus Ex Machina. They just become, oh, well, you're supposed to be this now because this is what your character does. Like they lose individuality and agency.
Yeah, there's just nothing to it whatsoever, you know, and it just the relationship is not even a great relationship, and it's just there's so many choices. But I do want to talk. I
honestly had to like go back and think like, why was she even there except to be the heroine? Then I was like, wait, she was the eco-terrorist that belonged to the group that believed the ozone was healed, so the electromagnetic shield could come down. which was what McLeod had put up. So like I honestly, I sat here about 45 minutes to an hour ago, and I thought, what was that movie? Like, what was the plot? I was like, what? Why was I had to go back and like redetective this whole thing, because while I was watching it, my mind was just so numb to everything. Like, it had the clues to put everything together. Yeah, it was mental paralysis.
That was the trauma. That was
yeah,
trauma.
exactly. Yeah. That was my brain's way of just like compartmentalizing, processing.
Yeah, that's what happens when you experience trauma.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because it was a late 80s, early 90s movie, they had to incorporate an evil businessman. So they thought to themselves, how we're going to do evil businessman. And then they came up with this really crazy plot where McLeod, like 20 years previous to the movie's beginning, had created an energy shield around the Earth to protect it from the ozone layer. And then when the movie starts, apparently the ozone has been fixed, it's repaired itself, we don't need the shield anymore, but evil businessmen are making profits off the energy shield, so they don't want to tell anybody. There was no point to do any of that plot. You could have just had Immortal showing back up after 20 years saying, let's get this going. But they were like, no, we're going to lean in hard in this energy shield around the Earth plot so we can have evil businessman.
Remind me at the end when it was like shooting the energy shield, was it failing? Did somebody do something to it to overload it? Like, I forget like how that even happened.
Yeah.
Why it was messing up in the first place. Was it sabotage from?
Yeah, it was sabotaged by General Katana, and it was overloading. And so Highlander took his... when he did the quickening, he used a lot of his quickening power to deactivate the shield without blowing up the Earth. So he saved the world is basically what he did there.
Okay.
But the thing is, the only reason I'll be honest, the only reason I know that, even though I've watched this movie about 4 or 5 times in my life, is not because of the movie, but because I've read about it. And that's a very big difference. It should be explained in the movie, and it's not at all. Mm-hmm. You have to kind of piece it together. That's what's happening. And I have a feeling it's because they edited so much out about referencing Zeiss that they just have
they got rid of a bunch of key other information that they didn't bother replacing.
It's not a movie. It's a collection of scenes.
It's kind of like Mortal Kombat in that way.
Yeah.
Mortal Kombat was more coherent.
Surprisingly so.
Like Mortal Kombat, like I said, when we discussed that one, like there were probably like 20 scenes that they said, okay, these have to be in this order. Everything else, just throw them in wherever you want.
Yeah. And this, it's just, you kind of feel like there's progression, but there's not actual progression.
This had like maybe 5 scenes that had to be in there.
Yeah.
And everything else was thrust in involuntarily.
Absolutely.
Without any consent from anyone involved.
Yeah, exactly. And the rules that don't make sense, like I'll bounce back to the first two villains. They had these special swords that could cut through metal, but McLeod pulls up just a random lead pipe, but for some strange reason, lead pipe can withstand this special sword's powers.
Yeah.
It just stuff like that just doesn't make any sense.
Or they're guns that shoot, like 4 or 5. I don't want to say bullets because they always shoot up, electric sparks or flames or, whatever's exploding and loud and looks cool at the time that pyro can pull off. So he takes a shot, 5 things blow up, in a line across a brick wall. They go around an alley. Or around a corner down another alley. He does the same thing again. Then McLeod runs up a fire escape. He shoots the same weapon, and you see one sparking contact point on the handle of the fire escape, and then another part where it just cuts itself because that's what the gun does now. And that cross section like falls off perfectly that McLeod was about to grab onto for support. Almost pitches off the side because of it. It was there were no rules.
Really incomprehensible. And Sean Connery Ramirez goes out like a chump. I just
oh my gosh.
Them like him using all his energy just to stop a rotating blade, and then he just kind of vanishes.
Yeah, like he can't.
Ridiculous stuff I have ever
like he couldn't leave with them right quick.
He couldn't dive out of the way. The door wasn't that far away.
I know.
It was a small room.
Yeah.
I could have done that,
Yeah, I could have done that. And I'm bigger than... Never mind.
Well, he used all this energy to open the door, I feel like, right?
Yeah, I'm a big guy, but I can hustle when I need to.
Exactly.
Ramirez could have, too.
Yeah, it just so many choices made. He just went out like a chump. and with like he showed up in the movie just to stop. And that scene in itself, where they're just doing the rotating blade for no reason because evil businessman has an evil trap in the ventilation shaft, is just the craziest thing I've ever heard. Again, with
and there we had, another ripoff of, they like that trash compactor scene in Star Wars. Well, yeah, but we can't put a monster in a businessman's building. You know what? Willy Wonka. That fan was terrifying when I was a kid. We'll put that in, but make it come down. That's how we'll get our trash compactor. Do it. And meanwhile, like blood is just coming out of the other nostril of this poor man taking notes.
Yeah. It's just incredible. And the thing is with it all is then you sit down and we've railed on it for a half an hour or so. Let me ask you a question, Brandon. Can you find anything good about this movie? Could be anything at all.
Oh, the coded gay marriage of Ramirez and McLeod is the best thing about this movie. It really was. Like it was the only I posit the only redeeming thing of this movie.
Yeah. It was coded and we teased about the vague homosexuality because you could tell it was
there's just so many other overt phallic and orgiastic,
well, it was even polyamorous
things happening
at one point.
Polyamorous,
thank you.
Yeah, and the thing is, it was fun to watch that. Like, it's Sean Connery. He can be in a terrible movie, and you still find him a little entertaining, right? Because it's Sean Connery.
Right.
Well, it's Sean Connery.
And like the old man who helped McLeod, set up the energy shield or the electromagnetic shield, whatever, 20 years ago. Like once you start thinking along those lines of like, okay, so McLeod and Ramirez are a thing, but his man's gone for a few hundred years, and now he's got a new partner who's helping him on this fun new project. And you look at that, he's like, and then when he sees him 20 years later, he's like, oh, it's so good to see you again. It's like, well, no wonder. It's nice to see an old ex after a long time when things didn't end horribly. Why not?
When you guys split amicably and you come back after 20 years and you're like, I had good memories.
Exactly. Like we did this great project together. Then we realized it was more of a work relationship. So, you did your thing. I did mine. It's cool.
I respect the heck out of you and you respect the heck out of me. And there's still love there. Yeah. Exactly. When you look at the movie that way, it does color it a little bit and it's not quite such a drudge. If you just think these are just buddies running around, it's just for some reason, it just kills it. It kills it.
But when you think that maybe, they're going to go get a nice asparagus frittata for brunch after this. Why not?
So I like that. I will say that there are some people that did come to work on this set. There was the lighting crew really did a good job.
I gotta say, the crew on this there were three good scenes.
Yes.
Cinematically that I saw, and none of them were involving the actors. Everything was involving some aspect of the crew or camera work, or a directorial decision, but nothing involving the actual people speaking and moving in this movie.
No, the funny thing is, if it was just a whole movie of just like different shots of this imagined world, I think we would actually
if we could have just had like some cinematic set pieces,
like a screensaver that goes by.
I'm saying, like,
I would be down.
Give us that, like 8 screensaver pack for the $5 DLC. Whatever. Like, give us more shots like that. When they were coming up that like spiral staircase, that was beautifully done.
It was
like I posit it was the best shot or best sequence in the entire movie.
As they had to put the camera on wires and suspend that camera.
Yeah, and then like time
that camera around to get that shot.
Timing it with them coming up the stairs. That was some work.
You have this incomprehensible mess, and then suddenly you got this really cool shot that they obviously spent a lot of time and money getting right, just randomly in this movie. It was amazing, and then the lighting was in some of these sets were really good, like just casted mood lighting. It was very reminiscent of Blade Runner and that mood that it wanted to set. It had no business being in this movie. This movie shouldn't have been made, and it shouldn't have been made with the crew doing such a great job.
The animated lightning, always good.
Always solid.
When he killed one of the 2 porcupine assassin dudes, where it kind of looks like a hand crawling along the ground really creepily. Up between
the last movie,
like it was really, that was well done, but it's just no.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, again, I keep coming back to Macon's point. Brandon and I can laugh, and Mom can laugh through anything.
We're pretty decent riffers.
Yeah, we're pretty good at this stuff. We've had years of practice, and we have a year's practice doing it together. And to get to the point where we went for 30 minutes and we're struggling with even just being goofy about this film as part of the review. And at the end of the review, I noticed all three of us just went, that's a review in of itself. And I think as we're starting to wrap it up, because I'm looking at the time, and I don't know if I want to talk about this movie much longer anyway. That's kind of like where I'm coming from. Like with Highlander, the first one, there's a lot of entertaining parts to it.
Yeah, there's some great support characters.
Absolutely.
Like his Scottish friends and family members.
Yeah.
When he has the flashbacks, those were great extras.
Best
We
parts of
didn't
it.
have any redeemable extras. You know, like
Nothing.
John C. McGinley is one of my favorite actors. I thought he did a really great job as the businessman. But Eric, when we were watching it, you commented how he made like a really interesting choice to go with deep voice, and that was something else I found. He did that. That was a conscious choice because he wanted to sound more like Orson Welles, or have the character be kind of reminiscent of Orson Welles. And he's like, yeah, that was a kind of a bad idea though, because nobody got it. Now I just look dumb.
Yeah, that makes. I don't think it was the right choice, but now that I know that,
it was a choice that he made. It was brave. It didn't work out, unfortunately, but it sheds a little bit of light. We got a question answered. I am happy for that. Thank you, John C.
We got one question replied, and that's the thing. I kept coming back to him as we were watching Evil Businessman. I'm like, that's Dr. Scrub. That's Stan versus Evil. That's 1,000. His filmography is huge. He's a great actor, and I was like,
Cox.
what? I know he's young here, but why is he making these choices? That makes more sense. If he's focusing on trying to be Orson Welles for some reason, okay, at least he was trying, I guess he was trying to do something here. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's not anything really redeeming. I could have a 5-minute short film about the romance between Ramirez and Highlander, and I would actually be really happy.
Give me that. Give me like, the West or the HBO series, the Westworld series. Give me like the HBO series where like and we kind of talked about this before. Let's make it even more specific. Each season is a different time period, and we're seeing them progressing through the relationship. I want to see them having their honeymoon in Italy and learning how to make pasta. Fast forward a few hundred years when, he's showing off his family home in Spain and they're making paella or something. Like, I don't know, but just like, give me that over this. Good Lord.
I'm just thinking out loud. You could do it where they're forever cursed to love each other, but never can be together for very long.
Oh, it's Hawkman and Hawkwoman from
exactly.
DC. As soon as they find each other in each lifetime, they're murdered.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Like, for whatever reason, they get throughout the centuries get torn apart.
There we go. Give us the Ramirez McLeod Hawkman Hawkwoman story.
Yeah, where is that? That's the story I want, not whatever this was. I could be down for that. I could. Yeah, the love that could never be. I'd watch that film in a heartbeat.
At least that would be a story, where this one that we watched didn't actually have a story plot. So,
Well, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm looking at the time. And thank you guys. Brandon, thanks for being such a good sport. I know we tested our friendship over this one.
I just want to say in closing, when we finish the commentary track, I don't think I'm spoiling anything. But you asked me what I thought about the movie, and I think I called it a cinematic abortion, and I stand by that.
Yeah, that's pretty much. And it's so harsh to hear it, but it's pretty accurate. But thank you for being a good sport. And those that are listening that encouraged us to watch this, you are terrible people. We kind of respect you for it, but yeah.
We recognize this game.
Yeah, we recognize and respect the game that you dropped, but yeah. Thank you for taking 2 hours of our life we may never get back.
Our eyes are still bleeding.
They might be. I know I had to know.
My face is currently turning to clay and my eyes are moving to the side of my head.
Well, I think for those that are still listening, we're going to give a little preview. We have settled on a movie that Brandon has not seen that is actually really entertaining. It's terrible, but also entertaining, kind of like Highlander. We're going to be covering Conan at some point. I am extremely excited about that. I do watch Conan on a regular basis. It's if for those that don't know what that is, it was way back when Arnold Schwarzenegger was very young. It was his very first film beyond Terminator that he's ever been in. In fact, it adds character to the film because he didn't know English, so he barely spoke in the whole movie. But because Arnold is so funny to watch, you are entertained through and through. And I am personally excited about showing Conan to Brandon. So y'all keep with us. Stay tuned. We'll be dropping that sometime, and we'll have a good time with that, and we'll break it down just like we did here. I will say, although it was an absolute excruciating experience, I'm glad that we did it, us three together. They say trauma brings people together, so we have survived Highlander. Congratulations, both of you.
Yeah, we're getting some real trench warfare mentality here, folks.
We are. Good thing we like each other.
Bonding through trauma.
I know, right? It's amazing. Well, thanks for joining us. Like I said, hey, if you want to get involved with our community, you certainly can. We have a Facebook page. You can find us there at You, Me, Your Mom. Google it. You'll pop it right up and be able to find us there. We're usually interacting with our fans there on a regular basis. We also have an Instagram page, which is You, Me, Your Mom 99. That's You, Me, Your Mom 99. You can find us there. And we're also on Twitter, which is You, Me, and Your Mom. Easy to find there as well. There's a couple other ways that you can interact with us. First of all, you can leave a voicemail for us on many of the podcast places where you get your podcast. We have a voicemail button. If you click on the voicemail, you can leave us a voicemail. In fact, if you have some sort of strong opinion about Highlander 2, let us know. If your eyes bleed like ours do and you're just looking for a comforting voice, leave us a voicemail. We'll bond together. I promise I will not leave you alone in the darkness. I will reach out. And there's one other way that you can reach us if you prefer email. We have an email for this show, which is You, Me, Your Mom 99 at gmail.com. That's You, Me, Your Mom 99 at gmail.com. And that's spelled
YOUMEYOURMOM 99 at gmail.com.
I love it. Thanks, Brandon. And one last thing, if you like what we do, please share us with your family and friends. We're a growing podcast and we'd like to get out there. And if you like what we do, also leave us a review on different podcast platforms. That would be a huge help for all of us as we're slowly growing as a podcast. Well, I've been Eric and we've been joined by my other two co-hosts, my best friend, Brandon.
Yeah.
And my mom.
Yeah, I'm still here too.
Until next time, we'll see you later. I am not going to say it could always get worse because I think we finally found the bottom. We'll just simply say, see you later. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.